Hi, I'm Jim Farron. We're here today with Mike Kennedy, Dr. Mike Kennedy, a candidate for the Utah State House of Representatives in District 27. Mike, how are you today?
Good, thanks.
So tell us about your experiences that you feel qualify you for this position to be a member of the state legislature.
Happy to do so. And actually, Jim, I'm just really pleased to be here on UVU campus and talk with you. It's a privilege to be at this fine university. I work actually just up the hill. I'm a family doctor at the University of Utah. They have a health center in Orem. And that's the first thing. I touch the people every day, and I love helping them solve problems. And I say that specifically, I help them solve problems. We together, the patient and I, work together to resolve issues. I've also studied the law and the Constitution at BYU. I had a chance to work full-time as a family doctor while I studied the law and the Constitution. And I'm privileged to understand the constitutional framework under which we all function. With those two skills, the individual skills of understanding the person as a doctor, and then as a person that studied the law and the Constitution, I'm privileged to offer myself to the people of our district as a person that has the capacity to help them solve problems.
Good. You spent a lot of time in college.
Yes, a lot of time and a lot of money over the time.
Very good. So if you're successful in attaining this office and becoming a member of the legislature, what do you want to do there? What are your top priorities for the coming 2 years?
The top priorities for me involve the economy and education as well as healthcare. I'll start with the economy. When it comes to the economy, the government doesn't create jobs, but it does create an environment for people to function well. The small businesses in our society are under certain constraints, and we need to do, as a government, our best to create a healthy environment so those small businesses can function in the right way. When it comes to education, I've spent 31 of my 43 years being educated, a long time I've been in school. I understand the student perspective, and when it comes to education, I believe we're doing an excellent job in the state of Utah, educating our children on the higher as well as the elementary education side. We can do better, and I want to work with parents and teachers as well as students to advocate for healthy educational environments. And then finally, I've got a lot of options on the healthcare side. We've got Obamacare coming down. In addition to lots of our state funds are being spent on the provision for healthcare. And as a family doctor and an attorney, I have the capacity to deal with those things in a healthy way.
Okay, very good. What sort of legislation specifically do you have in mind that you would sponsor? What's going to be your focus? Everybody at the legislature has a focus. What would be yours?
I'd love to see the small businesses pay a property tax, and there's an exemption below $3,500 for the small businesses. That process of having to take inventory of their property and in addition paying taxes on that, just taking the inventory alone is a burden, let alone paying the taxes. And I'd like to see that small business property tax exemption raised from $3,500 up to a higher number. The proposal at this point is $15,000. Let's offload our small businesses. Let's stop asking them to keep track of paper clips, pencils, and chairs. And let's allow our small businesses to succeed by deregulating and reducing taxes. When it comes to healthcare, as a family doctor, I see all the time the regulatory burden that the federal government as well as the state government put on us. One of the examples is that if you have high blood pressure and you are applying for your driver's license and you tell the DMV that you have high blood pressure, you have to see your doctor every time you get your driver's license. I've filled out literally hundreds of these forms as a doctor to justify having a state license, and 99.9% of those forms have been non-meritorious. There's no reason for the doctor to be filling out the form to justify. This person can drive safely, they're healthy, they're fine, they need to work with their doctor. I don't believe it's the government's job to babysit the healthcare conditions of their constituents, and I believe that we ought to offload the people as well as the healthcare system and not have that functional, it's called a functional ability evaluation. I would want to get rid of that.
Very good. So let's dive into a couple of the other big issues that are out there. Take a couple of minutes and tell us a little bit about your positions on illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about budget priorities, education. Talked a little bit about healthcare already, and public land use policy. Do you have views on those issues?
Absolutely.
Start off on immigration.
Right. Starting off with that, I start with that so the Kennedy family, I'm a first-generation American on my dad's side. He's an immigrant from Canada, and he and I have talked recently. He feels like the way that my grandfather came to this country, if he tried to come in this environment, he never could have come to the United States. And I'm so grateful back 50 years ago that my grandfather was allowed in this country so that my dad was raised in this country with a green card. He came here legally from Canada. And subsequently, my father was naturalized in the 1980s by Ronald Reagan, of all people, which I remember as a teenager going to that ceremony and just being so proud that my dad, who'd been a Canadian citizen, now could claim citizenship in this fine country, the United States. So immigration, all of us don't have to go too far back in our family history to find that first family that came to the United States. And we as a country are built on the backs of our immigrants. They've brought a lifeblood and a vitality to this country that has sustained us for over 200 years. And I believe that we need those immigrants to come to this country. We need them to come here legally, though, right? There's the kicker on this, is that we struggle with the illegal aspects, and a lot of people see this country as a beacon on the hill. They want to come here, and I want them to come here, but we need to advocate for legal systems. We need to fix legal immigration, and we need to discourage illegal immigration.
Very good. Let's talk for a moment about public education. That's the biggie up at the legislature.
It is a big one.
What specific public education reforms would you support, endorse, or maybe even sponsor? If any at all. Maybe you don't feel that there are any reforms that are needed.
Exactly. And a lot of people want to go to the legislature and advocate for change and tearing things up and throwing in new structures. I believe in the state of Utah, we're doing an excellent job teaching our children. And the Kennedy family, we use public education in the form of Timberline and Lone Peak High School. In addition, we use homeschool. The kids are homeschooled up until 7th grade, and then they transition into Timberline Middle School as well as Lone Peak High School. At the same time, we use charter schools in the form of open high school and online education. And as we as a Kennedy family have a chance to leverage each of those institutions, each of those opportunities, that we do the best job in teaching our children. And when it comes to healthy education systems, parents and teachers are best suited to determine how we should educate our children. And in the Kennedy family, I'm so grateful in this fine state that we've had a chance to use each one of those systems. And as a result, our children have had an excellent opportunity for education. I want to continue the things that we're doing well. And when we need to change things, we need to work with parents and teachers to get those things improved. I think we have to be careful before we start to throw away old structures that in fact are working pretty well, but I want to make sure that parents and teachers have all the resources necessary so that they can educate our children in an excellent way.
You know, that's the big challenge in Utah, is we have a relatively small economy and relatively large families.
Right.
So funding is always a difficulty. We always rank near the bottom in terms of per pupil funding. Do you feel that that's something we need to work on or change? And how would you do it?
When it comes to the proposals to claim back the lands, the federal lands that currently are in the possession of not our state, which they were supposed to be granted to our state, I believe that it's worth the fight for us to try to get access to these BLM lands that have been taken by the federal government, never given back to us. So I believe that the fight to get those lands is a great way to improve the revenues. That's going to take a long time. In the meantime, as a state, we need to use our resources in the best and most capable fashion so that we can do an excellent job in teaching our children. And I believe technology is one of the ways that we can do that. As we leverage technology, there's a lot of proposals on the table, and I would work with parents and teachers to use the best proposals. But let's be honest, I've been a student for 31 out of 43 years. Education is not something that happens because somebody stands in front of me and teaches. Education is something that happens inside of the head of the student. And there are multitudes of ways for us to teach children, including virtually as well as hands-on, and in addition, traditional lecture-based formats. And I would use and leverage each one of those opportunities to make sure that parents and teachers have all the resources they need.
Great. Let's move on to one that reaches out and touches every one of us. Tell me, under what conditions would you support a tax increase?
Very seldom, especially in this economy. It's funny because I heard a federal legislator on the news in the distant past say, when I need more money, I just go out and get a second job. And I think, yeah, but the government doesn't get a second job. When they raise taxes on us, they make me and they make you go out and get a second job so that we can pay our taxes. there are very few reasons for us to raise taxes on our people.
Give us some examples of when you would raise taxes.
When there's a state of war or we have major infrastructure problems, then those are emergencies that we need to raise taxes on our people. We need to go into debt to take care of those vital emergent needs, but only in very sparing cases should we utilize the capacity that we have to raise taxes on the people. When it comes down to the function of each individual family, the government's burdens through the taxes are a significant issue that we need to address, including not only federal and state, but municipal taxes that the people have. And yes, we need to pay for infrastructure, but we need to determine carefully between the needs and the wants of our society. I grew up poor. I was on welfare as a child, and I've had multitudes of opportunities through education and hard work, dedication, and faith to move myself up through those opportunities from poverty, where 7 children and a single mother, $17,000 a year in the 1980s. That's all I had as a family to function. It was a very difficult environment that I grew up in financially. I've learned how to manage money through personal experience, and we need to be very careful on not only how we spend our money, but also how we raise our money in this society.
How about a tax decrease?
I'm all for looking for those opportunities. One of the things, and that's part of this functional ability evaluation that I would offer to the people, is that for the driver's license, when you have to go see your doctor to get this medical evaluation so you can get your driver's license, that is, in a sense, it's a tax.
Sure.
And to remove that sort of burden on the people, as well as the healthcare systems, that's something that would save our society money.
Let me ask you just one last question here. There's a balance at the legislature between being a statesman who leads his constituents in thought, political ideas, and a representative who reflects the opinions and views of the constituents. So tell me, when an issue comes up that you feel strongly about, but you discover your constituents feel differently, what do you do?
Absolutely.
How do you vote?
Thanks for asking that question. As a doctor, and I'll relate that's the world I live in. This is the analogy that fits for me. If you come to my office and you've got crushing chest pain, you're sweating, and I think you're having a heart attack, there's no negotiation with that. I don't care what Jim Farron says, I will call the ambulance and I will send you to the hospital. You may say, well, the ambulance is going to cost me, and I've had these conversations many times. The ambulance is going to cost me $500, and I say, Mr. Smith, if you don't go to the hospital, you will die. In those cases, there's no negotiation. To me, that's what being a leader is about. When there's vital issues that we need to decide right now, that circumstance, there's no negotiation with that. But in between, there are multitudes of opportunities for us to negotiate and work. And I want to work with my constituents. I've had a chance for 6 months now to visit with the constituents of Alpine, Highland, Cedar Hills, Provo, Suncrest, the people in Legislative District 27. They are fantastically motivated, intelligent, capable people. I will work with those people to gather the ideas so that we can move forward in the best way to accomplish what we need to build a brighter future in Utah. And the majority of the decisions that we will make are going to be based on we together as a people are helping to advocate for healthy societal reform. But when it comes to my core values and the vital decisions that I'll have to make, I will make those decisions with the input of others. But if I have to make a hard decision that goes against the opinions of the constituents that have talked to me, I will make those hard decisions. And in general, core values are local control. We don't want to increase taxes. We want to make sure that we have an excellent societal system so that our system works for the next 50 years, not just for the next one.
Very good. Thank you. It's Dr. Mike Kennedy, candidate for the legislature.